They do play a turn 1 Deafening Silence. Spoiler, we kill them on turn 2. Hey everyone, TonyScapone here, and we're going to be going through a trophy replay of the Epic Gamble, the latest iteration that I've made here. So I'll do a quick walkthrough of kind of how the deck works. If you already know how it works and you want to get to the gameplay, you can, of course, zoom forward. But I wanted to do the recap because I've gotten some positive feedback from some people saying that though they love the gameplay, for a deck like this, they really enjoy the thorough explanation, which is something that is obviously easier for me to do by going through the replay. I feel like people tend to put this deck on a pedestal for being super difficult, which, I don't know, maybe it is, I've just played it way too much. So hopefully this will help, if you're looking to play the deck better, or if you're looking to beat me more often against it. So I've made some minor tweaks here and there, just ways to get some points against some of the more common thorns in our side, so to speak. Playing more Seething songs, because they're pretty good against opposing Vexing Baubles. Not playing the Mox Opal, because it's pretty inconsistent. Playing fewer Sagas, but still playing Saga. I want access to it, but I want more solid mana. I don't want to just lose to Blood Moon with a deck that should be laughing at Blood Moon. So we have an extra mountain, we have an extra Ancient Tomb. It also means when we do have Saga, we have a soul land to pair with it a lot more often. Trying to become as efficient as possible. So I'm testing out not running the Wish, just playing the 4 Burning Wish. So basically, the Mox Opal, whether it used to be a looting or a research desk, and then the Wish are all now just Seething songs, which has been really powerful. Obviously it lines up really well with Reforge, giving ourselves more red pips for things like Shattering Spree can come up, having more rituals that can work under opposing or your own Vexing Baubles to get you to the mana that you want, and just having a card that is +2 mana, +3 if you have a Burgie. It's been really solid. And then the sideboard, playing a couple of Braids. It's just a really flexible card, especially against tempo. Since they're playing Tamios, it'll often have a target. That's fine. But then we'll just have more outs to something like Null Rod if they do manage to stick it. The Haywire Might is only so useful. Obviously less useful the less Saga we use. Less useful without the Opal, that I don't think is particularly good. And the Pyrite Spellbomb, I can take it or leave it. If we wind up with bannings that put Bowmaster like everywhere, then I like it. Maybe even in the main deck, we'll see. And when people used to be playing Voidwalkers out of the side as well as Bowmasters, it was really good. Not that it's bad right now. But again, less Saga makes it a little worse. I think less Saga is probably better right now. And most of the time we can just kill Bowmaster or win through it, which we'll see here in the video here today. But yeah, basically the way the deck works is you keep casting wheels. The primary engine being Echo of Eons, the 6 mana Time Twister, with a flashback cost of the same as Time Twister, which pairs quite well with Lines of Diamond. And then Gamble will give you redundancy for either Echo, if you already have LED, or give yourself a chance to get LED if you already have Echo. Or you can go Hellbent, have enough mana, including the blue, and cast Gamble, go get the Echo. Or if the only remaining card in your hand is Echo, that's just as good as being Hellbent in that scenario. Of course, Urza Saga gives you a bit more Lines of Diamond redundancy as well. And so does Burning Wish, because it can get Echo of Eons. Then, kind of on the other side of action, is your Reforges. and Horn. So kind of the big upfront red action that is supported via all these red rituals, Seething Song, Jeska's Will, having soul lands, and maybe some red sources, Rite of Flames. Nicely enough, Reforge does not shuffle the deck, so if you have an Echo in your hand, it goes right to the graveyard, right where you want it. Nice little bonus. And of course, we have a bunch of protection. We have 4 Vexing Bauble, 3 Defense Grid. I don't feel strongly about either way. 4 Grid, 3 Bauble. Anytime I've gone to 6, including recently, it's felt like it's just slightly not enough. I was on 4 Grid, 2 Vexing. I just feel like Vexing is too good. It's kind of a crime to not run the 4. Obviously a little bit annoying for ourselves, so ultimately your goal is to get a grid into play. You have a grid in play, you wheel. Remember, these wheels give your opponent 7 cards too, which is actually a benefit when you have a grid in play and you're trying to resolve Jeska's Wills, so you can get the full 7 mana. Vexing Bauble is pretty good at doing that, because people don't want to just throw away cards, but you can throw forces into Vexing Bauble just to make Will make less mana. Yeah, that's how the deck works. We, of course, have a big Wish board. Incidentally, we do have Void Snare. This card tends to come in post-board, but it has some various use cases being able to get it out of the sideboard. Echoing Truth comes in. You bounce. Whatever. As mentioned before, we have Echo. We can get with our Burning Wish. We have Mind's Desire. Primary reason for this card is so that when you're using your Lion's Eye Diamonds to cast Echo of Eons, you don't have to make awkward black mana considerations to ensure that you have lethal with tendrils. You can just keep making the blue that you want to make, so that when you draw into an Echo of Eons, you can still have the double blue necessary to front side it, or do it multiple times, or front and then backside, whatever it is. You usually just want to load up on blue and red. And then what Desire does for you is, when you spin the wheel and you have a Burning Wish, you still have access to a really lethal line, right? You have 12 Storm. Desire for 12 is, it's gonna get there. Win condition tendrils have access to Pier, always good, kind of an I win button. Tends to get cast a lot when Saga's popping off, since we can get Lion's Eye Diamond. Shattering Spree, obviously just really good removal for artifacts. Abrades come in against various things, namely Null Rod, Collector Roof, Grape Shot, Alternate Win Con. Also responsible for killing a lot of Collector Roofs and the like. Relay. Very rarely is it like our primary goal to relay, but sometimes that's the mana that you have and you still want to go for a powerful play. Relay can get you there. I don't really leave home without it. Jeska's Will out of the sideboard is primarily to make your Burning Wish modal as a ritual, especially when you're wheeling and there's a defense grid in play. If your opponent has 7 cards in hand, hit 2 for Burning Wish, pay the 3 for Jeska's Will, you're getting 7, so your Burning Wish is a +2 ritual. Also, one if they have 6 cards. Goes even if they have 5 and you're just looking to build Storm, which can come up even if they have 4 and you just want to... Now it's costing you a mana, but you can get some extra Storm that way. Void's they're pretty good at getting extra Storm sometimes too. Alchemist Gambit, this is to be able to beat the ring, or anything like that. You take an extra turn. During that turn, damage can't be prevented. The 1 ring gives protection, and protection prevents damage. So, though you cannot target them because they do still have protection, they can't prevent damage, so you cast Gambit, you make goblins, you attack them, the damage is not prevented, and they die. Then, of course, you do have goblins. Sometimes you don't have the black or enough Storm to kill them with tendrils, or it's turn 1, and you just want to make turn 1 12 or 14 goblins, whatever it is. Very useful card. And Reforge. You get to see in this video today why this card is very important to be in the sideboard. Otherwise, you're going to oftentimes be reaching Jeska's Will for a just drawing 3, which is pretty low velocity. Would rather have 7. Okie dokie, that is the deck tech. Let's get into it. I will see you in round 1 of this sweet recap. Alright, here we are in game 1, round 1 against Woooter. Looks like we won the die roll. Let me know, by the way, if you do enjoy this preview thing here. Obviously, it eats up some more space, so it does make the overall window smaller. Trying to get a feel for... I know some people are on mobile and don't know the cards, can't read them, so it's nice to have kind of a big thing over here, but I don't know how many people prefer that over having the extra space on the battlefield. Okay, so here we are on the play. I would keep this, and I would just be going for it. I would assume that's what I'm going to do here. I do keep petals coming in. And we're going to go right for Will. They kept on 7. Bang. We got our 7. I will play Grid. I mean, we'll resolve there, right? Which means they probably don't have a force, but they might be a blue deck, and we're about to wheel them into a new 7. So I do think it's worth playing the defense grid. We're also going to get to see what they're doing, which is nice. And the problem with being patient here, well, there's multiple problems, right? Legacy is a powerful format. You could just die. They could play some problematic permanents, whatever, discard you. But whenever you're using Jeska's Will as your ritual, you have to understand that as they play cards, Jeska's Will becomes less of a ritual. So, worst case, they counter your Jeska's Will, and it was kind of like a grid anyways. But grid gets in, cast Reforge, and it looks like they're on Painter. Bunch of rando Painter stuff. We draw into a bunch of nothing, but I'm going to play out a couple of zeros just so we get stuff in front of a potential Vexing Bauble. And we have our 2 Sagas, both of them. Alright, they go Petal Tomb. Probably turn 1 Fable is fine. We're hoping to hit some action. We do. We hit a Burning Wish. Now, you can wait here. We have 8 mana. If we had 1 more mana, then we'd be able to peer. But a lot of these decks are playing Karn. Also, I don't want to have to deal with a Vexing Bauble. We have a grid in play, so we don't have to worry about like a random Spirit Guide Blast. And we can go Burning Wish for Echo and spin it. Is what I do here. In the wheel. And we didn't really hit anything. One of the problems with that wheel is that we didn't have red mana. So you're kind of hoping to hit a Petal, Chromox, Spirit Guide. But we didn't. Which is fine. Definitely got a head on resources. There are certainly things that could go wrong here. But generally speaking, I'd say we're still favored. They need to do something extremely impactful right now. They did not. They did largely nothing. They're representing Pyroblast, right? They have 4 mana, means they can cast the Pyroblast through a defense grid. Luckily, we're going to play a bunch of non-blue spells. We're going to get a Full Blast Jeska's Will here, followed by a Seething Song. Just an outrageous amount of red mana. And in fact, now we can use this Burning Wish. I think I cracked it. Yeah, I cracked the Vexing first. See what's under the hood here. Depending on what you find, it can definitely change what you want to do with the Burning Wish. But yeah, I crack it, and now I can use this Burning Wish to go get Jeska's Will to get some more mana. And now we get to Reforge. We had 14 red mana floating. Just an outrageous amount. And now we can Reforge with a ton of red mana available. And we get to discard these Echoes, which are still useful for us. And now we have some pretty easy lethal going on here. We will just cast some spells. Play out our mana. Get more mana. Play Burning Wish. And get him with the tendies. Alright. That's the first game. Alrighty, so here we are with game 2. And the sand looks pretty reasonable. We can kill a Vexing Bauble and spin it in the same turn if we wanted to. We could also wait a turn if we wanted to. But I think I'm just going for it here. And I was very happy to see them crack this Petal, the draw. Then we don't have to worry about Pyroblast as much. Of course, they could have Spirit Guide Blast, but ultimately, I'm looking to put a blue spell on the stack, and I would prefer to feel better about going all in on it. And so we do that. And not a very good 7. But we get the Vexing out of there. I don't mind having this grid. And they're going to drop an Engineer and dump a Null Rod in their graveyard. What a joke. Null Rod out of Painter. They are just terrified. I mean, it's cute, right? They can swap it in and out with their welders and stuff. They can put it in on your turn and then take it out so that they can function. That's just kind of funny, right? Alright, so we can Abrade the Engineer. Then I go for Gamble. Just to get a Lion's Eye Diamond. I'm not going to go for it here, because there's just way too high a chance that they have a Pyroblast. But I want to get it in and out in front of a Vexing Bauble. They play another Engineer. And we rip another LED, which is really good. Now we can play this Defense Grid and just kind of be protected and spin it. Now, you'll notice my mana here, right? There's some general heuristics that I go by. By heuristics, I mean just how much blue and how much red you keep, depending on how much mana you have available. This comes up a lot when you're cracking multiple LEDs, or if you're just cracking one and you have some mana. What do you leave yourself with? So obviously at 1 mana, choosing one or the other, you're going to want red. If it's a matter of 2 mana, I go with 2 red. I go double red. I do not go 1 blue, 1 red. You much more often are going to need multiple red than you are going to need that 1 blue. When it's a matter of 3 mana, 2 red, 1 blue. That is the first circumstance in which I'm comfortable splitting it. When it comes to 4 mana, I will go 2 red, 2 blue. Double blue is useful. 2 red is, generally speaking, going to be enough. It is worth it. Then, of course, a 5th, you'd go 3 red, 2 blue. But usually it's, what do I do with 2, 3, or 4 mana? And it's double red for 2, 2 red, 1 blue for 3, and 2 and 2 for 4. Alright, so we're going to spin it. You might be saying, but Tony, you went 2 blue, 1 red. Well, I have a red on board, so that is 2 and 2. I actually punt this game. So, as we spin, they're using up Spirit Guides to get some mana, which is a good play, right? They do have, or often enough, they have traps in their deck. So you might as well rack up the mana. So, cast Seething Song, get some more mana. And then I gamble. Now, these are like the complicated gamble situations that come with experience. Because here, like, we already have a Reforge. You could go for a Frontside Echo. You could go for a Burning Wish. Actually, do I go for a Burning Wish? Oh, I actually went for an LED. So that's actually a punch right here. You should be going for Burning Wish. I think I was forgetting the fact that they're at 16. Because here's the thing. If you're gamble, you want to just think of the few circumstances and how they would actually and realistically play out. Right? These are the circumstances in which you already have a powerful line, but you also have a gamble, and you're trying to think of the ways in which gamble can strengthen your hand, where in the event that you hit the worst case scenario, your initial line has gone largely unfazed, which usually tends to be the case when you just have a surplus of mana. The less mana you have, the more damaging the gamble can be if you miss. And you kind of weigh that against what benefit you're potentially getting. Here, we have like kind of a medium amount of mana, but if we'd gone for Burning Wish, worst case scenario, it hits itself, and you just reforge as you were going to. In fact, we could even reassess, because then that means we'd have the other gamble. The gamble hit the other gamble. But at any rate, if it hit anything other than the Burning Wish, we have lethal. We could have just killed them. I played this league pretty fast, so there might be a spot or two where I don't agree with myself, where I just, was jamming. And this is one of those cases. So I got Lions of Diamond, which is still really high power, right? If it hits itself, you spent the 1 on gamble, not a huge deal. You can reassess, you can reforge, whatever. If it hits the other gamble like it did here, well, now you have an LED to go with your reforge. You can reforge, hold priority, use your LED, and you just got yourself +2 mana by using a gamble to get Lines of Diamond. Pretty good. If it hits the Reforge, well, we had another gamble. So we could just play LED and then we could just Echo instead of Reforging. Generally speaking, you can't gamble for mana if you only have one action in your hand, unless, of course, you have a Lines of Diamond. The action that we're referring to is an Echo of Eons. But, like, let's say we have a gamble, a Reforge. You gamble for Lines of Diamond. Well, if it hits your Reforge, you have literally no action. But we had 2 gambles, so not a big deal. Again, should have gotten Burning Wish. We didn't. This is still powerful. And that's not even the punt that I'm talking about. The punt that I do is just... It wasn't a punt as much as it was just being lazy. So here we go again for another. And they have another Spirit Guide. We had a bunch of Rite of Flames and Burgi. Now, yeah, we could have... Well, maybe it's not a punt, right? We have mana floating. Like, you can play around Trap here. And there is a question of, are you supposed to? Is kind of what it comes down to. You can either let your mana burn and go second main, in which case you lose out on 3 mana, but we do have a lot. Ultimately, what it would do is reduce the amount of card, like you'd have to use more rituals and reduce the cards in your hand. You could also just play another defense grid, then cast these rituals. I think that's a little less costly. It's 2 mana as opposed to letting 3 burn away. Which, in retrospect, is probably the correct play. We had, what, 3? So we go to 1, 2, 4, 7 Horn. That'd be 2 mana. Well, plus the 2 petals even, and then 4 cards off a Horn. You could even leave one of the Rite of Flames in your hand and just use one of the petals. I'd probably do that. Then you might pinch yourself on blue mana. At any rate, I said, I dare you to have Trap. And they said, okay, get them. And they got us with the Trap. So then we play Grid with the remaining mana. Get another 0 out there so it doesn't get Vexing Bauble. Prepare ourselves for drawing into a Reforge. And they play a Null Rod from hand. Like, okay. We play Tomb and Pass. They play a Fable. I draw Shatter Skull Smashing so we can kill their stuff. They've still got this Null Rod going, Vexing. Another Fable. We draw into a Grid, not great. They do some more Fabling. Oops, all Fables. Pretty good. And we draw Burning Wish. We get Shattering Spree. I don't use it yet because I want to be able to hit the Vexing as well. But we are obviously quite far behind. I believe, yeah, this pretty much makes us dead. Because now if I kill Null Rod, they grind us. And we didn't draw any action anyways to go with the spree. We kind of need 3 red so that we could kill Painter first. And then Null Rod and the Vexing and of action. I guess we drew action there. We could have at least killed Painter and Null Rod and then maybe done something. But at any rate. Alright, here comes game 3. This hand is not keepable. This hand... So... I feel like your average player might just keep this. Like, generally speaking, I'm not going to play around Spirit Guide Blast. They have it a reasonable amount of the time, but we can't afford to just, like, play slow and let them play a Vexing, or let them ramp up to Karn, or they've shown us Null Rod. At the same time, this is a mulligan to 6. With the amount of redundancy that this deck has to put together, putting Echo on the stack, this one has risks associated with it, right? You're going to be going to 6, going to 5 to play land, going to 4 to gamble, or a Lion's Eye Diamond. So it isn't 80% to be able to Echo, but there's a few things there, right? Each of the cases with 5 cards when you gamble is a 20% chance. If it hits Echo, if it hits Echo directly, you're now 20% chance, or your gamble is 20% chance to hit Echo, which means you're 20% chance to open yourself up to any graveyard interaction that we're usually able to just completely dodge. Very Macabre, Surgical, whatever. If it hits your Spirit Guide, you have no mana post-Echo. Could get a little bit ballsy, use the Spirit Guides so that you guarantee that mana, and then just have lower odds of success. Also higher odds that you walk into Graveyard Heat. I would prefer, in this circumstance, given how often you have hands that reliably echo, and with mana post-echo, I would mulligan. You have the London Mulligan. You have a 5-card, 4-card, 3-card, 2-card. If you're willing to take all the chances that you are awarded with this deck, you are, the vast majority of the time, going to come up with something better than, or at the very least, the same. This is the type of hand that I'd be thinking harder about on 5 or 4. Obviously, the gamble LED lines are more of a gamble the less cards you have, so it's not a free thing to do. I just think it is correct here. And here is a perfect example. Very similar hand, except we already have the LED and Echo, and we already have an extra mana to go with it. We are, again, walking into Spirit Guide Blast, but again, I'm not going to be mulliganing down to try to beat that. So now we have an Echo with a land drop and 1 mana. And of course, we get some free Storm out of the deal. It's also playing around Trap, right? One of the beautiful things about Spirit Guide, we get a mana, and we don't have to walk into Mindbreak Trap. Okay, and we hit some gas. So, Grid is certainly of value against them, because, again, we know that they have Trap, and they obviously have Pyroblast and Spirit Guides, so we get to play some stuff, not excluding Seething Song. And now we get to Grid, so we don't have to worry about anything. And still have plenty of mana. And they did have Trap. I probably should have sequenced different. Like, I probably shouldn't have played LED. I think the only reason I did was because they didn't trap the Seething Song and felt like if they had it, they would have done that. But, so Grid gets trapped. And now we Echo again. And we find some lethal. I will play out Lines of Diamond. If he gets trapped, we still have more going on. And we can play Vexing. And now we can get plenty of mana with Jeska's Will. Play out our Chromox. And put some lethal on the stack. Oh, so you're probably thinking, why did you get empty? Well, Moto is getting super laggy. And it didn't hold priority for me. It's only a league match, so it doesn't matter. I was kind of hoping they would scoop. I told them what happened, but they just said, I think you can submit a ticket. They usually refund leagues. Which, yeah, they would, but whatever. MT's going to win anyways. They would have to have like a turn 1 kill. I don't think they're going to be playing sweepers. I guess they could have like some Furies, but I don't think they're really bringing in Fury against us either. So 30 goblins, and they play a grindstone, and then they die. As expected. Sweet, we got them. We are 1-0 in round 2. Hey everyone, thanks for making it this far. Just wanted to thank everybody, and if you're looking for more, show you where you can find that. If you go to the description below, you can find all of my links. If you go further down in the comments, you can also find my links for bring you to my Patreon, various tiers for Discord access, early access, sideboard guides, donation decks, coaching sessions. You can also check out the podcast within those links, as well as my Twitch, where I do most of my content. You can see the commands that you can use in the chat. Let's say you do dono. You're wondering how to get a link, how to do it. Tells you right here. And the members Discord is within the Storm, MTG Storm community. And of course, it's always going to help if you hit the like and subscribe. So thanks again. Keep storming, y'all. All right, here we are in round 2 against Fanatics. Looks like we've won the die roll. And this hand I wound up throwing back. One try of casting Reforge, but just kind of doesn't do anything meaningful. It's likely to develop over the course of a couple turns, but you kind of have to you're forced into playing out Chrome Moxen, otherwise you could run into Vexing or Chalice. I think on average, you're just gonna be able to do better, and this is obviously better. So, you have two major options here, in my opinion. You can either... I mean, we're not casting Seething Song, and we're gonna have to play a red source. So you can bottom either Seething Song or Ancient Tomb, doesn't really matter. Or you could keep Ancient Tomb and just use both LEDs, not even gamble. So I guess it's three options. There's either that, or you can give yourself a chance to gamble for another LED, which gives you one more mana than if you were to Ancient Tomb and not even cast gamble. But obviously, you lose to a Force of Will there. I think the most reasonable line, and if they don't have Force of Will, you're still in a very high velocity situation, is just play out your LEDs and gamble for a second Echo. That way, if they do force it, you have two Echoes. If they don't, like I said, you still have 3 mana post Echo, which is... it is considerably more than 2. Being able to cast your Seething Songs, Jeska's Wills, it's pretty important. So I'm usually pretty happy with 3 mana post Echo. And it does not get countered. And here we have what could be a very high velocity Reforge the Soul. We go to cast Seething Song. And it does get forced. Pitching Ponder. Now, a couple things here. First off, would you believe me if I told you we kill them 2 turns from now? And second off, what do you do here? I play out my Chrome Box. There once was a time with this deck that you held cards more often because you had Galvanic Relay and you had 4 Burgies, which means you wanted to hold cards for Horn and for Relay. And you did not play Reforge the Soul. And Vexing Bauble did not exist. These things are now true. We do play Reforge the Soul. We do not play Relay. Vexing Bauble does exist. It's going to be pretty rare out of a Force of Will deck, but mostly you want to say, especially when it's a redundant card, right? And you get punished by like getting discarded and then you imprinted your thing. Sure. Plus there's only 1 Reforge left in the deck because we have 2 right in front of us, but I'm still going to do it. And we go ahead and draw lines of diamond. I mean a Echo. So at this point, I'm going. Is there a chance they have double force? Sure. Is it slim? Yes. For 1, they had a random hand because we wheeled them. 2, they already used the Force of Will. They're certainly less likely to have a second. And 3, it's not like they pondered. They played a tap land and passed. So, I'm going to take my 75% chance here. I'm not going to get greedy and play out the mountain. And it hits the mountain. And now we can spin it. We have 1 mana already available, and we have a land drop. If they have a second force, so be it. Willing to take that chance. It is totally worth it here. They do not. And so we start popping off. Cast a couple Rite of Flames. Lay out LED. Now, here's an interesting spot. I can tell you right now that they just F6'd, which is why I wind up just going for it. Especially, like, you can kind of test them with that Jeska's Will. If they're going to F6 a Jeska's Will for that much mana, like, I'm just going to kill them, right? Like, you could Jeska's Will for action, but then on its face, you're 1 shy of lethal for mana. So you're hoping to, like, hit mana to recoup that and hit protection? Doesn't sound great. Probably the better line if you're really looking to beat a Force of Will is, like, to cast your Burning Wish earlier, and just not crack your LED and be willing to, like, relay. But like I said, they just kind of told me that they have nothing, so we go ahead and just kill them. Alright, now we're into game 2. Obviously, we're on the draw. Oops. Alright, I restarted it for you. So, this hand, very high power level, right? There's multiple problems. 1, we only have 2 starting mana, so we can't even start with Jeska's Will if we want to. 2, we already know they're on blue. But there are a number of good draws, right? Like Echo's a good draw. Any land is okay. Soul Land is quite good. But even then, we don't... like, we're pretty much leaning on Jeska's Will getting in there. And I don't think this hand can really do that. So I do mulligan. and wind up with a hand that not high on power level, but we have access to a Saga, we have access to a permanent mana source, a non-wastelandable permanent mana source beside it. They showed us blue-white. All we saw was Meticulous Archive, Force, and Ponder, I believe. So you could say, well, they might be Dreadnought, so they might have Wastelands, but I feel like you can't just totally assume that. And even if they did, this is it's a fine enough hand. So they mulligan to 4. There you go, Misty Rainforest, Tundra, Cage. Cage is fine. We've definitely got a nice hand against some hard mulligans. Now here, you can either play Vexing and pass, hope you draw land. You can play Vexing and then gamble. I'm gambling for my other Saga, and this is why I play 2 Sagas, by the way. That's what I'm doing here. Now, they could force the gamble, but they only have 2 cards, and if they do that, they have pretty much nothing, and I'm in a decent spot. And if I play Vexing first, then I have a lower chance of getting the Saga. So I just go for gamble. I am, of course, hoping it doesn't hit Vexing, but it really wouldn't be the end of the world if it did. They do have a force, and they do use it on the gamble, which is fine by me. Now I get to play Vexing, and we hope to draw land, which we do. We draw Ancient Tomb. It's very good. And they're going to surveil, but they have no cards in hand. So now they have 1 card. We make a token. Now this is a tough spot right here. They have 1 card, right? But if it's a Hydroblast and we go for it and we don't make a token, it's definitely a way that we can let them back into this game. And we do see Dreadnought, by the way, they surveilled that. So we know they're a highly interactive deck. It's not even necessarily improbable that they could have relevant interaction even just on 1 draw. So I do make a token here. I get a Lion's Eye Diamond, just because I would like this Burning Wish to be threatening. We've got a lot of mana going for us here. And we'll just apply some pressure. They didn't have Dress Down, so that's nice. Although then they would have been tapped out into our Vexing. Alright, so we untap. I believe we draw, what, another Seething Song, if I remember? Yes. So now we have like 1,000,000 mana. And I go ahead and cast a Seething Song. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do post-Seething Song, but I know I want to cast this, so it's actually an important thing with decks like this. Instead of tanking on a decision that you're not sure of yet, if there's one before it, if your next decision is sure, just make that play. Think about the other shit while your opponent's thinking about the play that you know you're going to make, right? Because 1, it's good time management, and 2, you might sit there and tank on something that is completely irrelevant given what your opponent does. And here we see a Hydroblast. So if I had sat there thinking, well, what do I want to do post-Seething Song? And there's a lot of thoughts to be had there. And I think I took like 4 or 5 seconds and then was just like, well, I'm definitely casting this, so I'm going to do that. And they Hydroblast it. Now I don't have to go through that. I don't have to waste that time, that mental energy. They had the Hydroblast. Did they have it last turn? I don't know. They've run another card since. But now there are 2. They have to deal with the constructs. If they do, they're probably going to tap into this Vexing, and we have more than enough to just kill them. So that's a wrap on that one. I'll see you in round 3. Okay, so here we are in round 3. We're playing against Giusty. And looks like we lost the die roll. We've got a banger of a hand. There's actually a lot of times in this league that I just happen to have both of my Sagas. But yeah, this hand is great because it's really good at doing Saga stuff, but it's also very explosive. And our opponent plays Underground Sea and Ponder. Certainly the sort of thing that can deal with what we're doing. If they have like a quick Entomb Reanimate, then they'll have our Sagas beat and be able to deal with our combo stuff. The nice thing is a lot of these Reanimator decks are playing less and less Wasteland. And a lot of the times, provided we can get to our Vexing Bauble off of Saga. We can get there. At the same time, we are playing less Saga. But this hand has both of our Sagas, so you'd never know. Alrighty. So I'm going to play the LED out because we're trying to get Vexing Bauble, so we need to. Plus we have 1,000,000 mana. They're not going to counter it. Now we get a nice clean construct road into very, very lethal, explosive combo stuff, which is where you want to be. We play Hedge Maze. They're pretty clearly representing Bowmasters, and Saga token's pretty good at that sort of thing. Oh, so there was a Reforge off the top. I decided not to cast it, just because we have so much gas in our hand. Like, casting the Seething Song from hand and casting it is kind of the same as casting it off of the top and discarding our Seething Song, except it's worse because we do have other cards as well. So I just held on to it. Now, to make a construct here or not is a tough choice. I opt for making one because I just feel like we have both angles. Both angles are so powerful here. And I don't have a, if I had, like, it's a little bit awkward. You can't gamble for Echo and a suit. You could like Reforge, and then if they counter it, then you can gamble Echo. The problem is I'm pretty sure they have a Bowmaster. And we have a very threatening board, and we have another Saga. So I think I would rather just play the construct, or make the construct, and see what they do when I attack. See if they want to play out a Bowmaster. And they do. They chump it with the token. Now they're tapped out, right? Which is a completely different scenario. Like, I'm fine with Bowmasters, most likely. It could really spoil our dinner here, but generally speaking, the more difficulty is having to deal with their interaction. And then Bowmasters is just like, now we have no life and they're actually going to kill us quickly, or we can't wield too many times, that sort of thing. But with Vexing in play, it's also another thing if we don't have excess mana, but we're going to Reforge and crack 2 LEDs. Like, Vexing Bauble is, or yeah, I wound up echoing, same thing. It's a little cheaper. But Vexing is very easy to play around once you have a certain density of mana, right? We have 7, and we whiffed, which is pretty wild. But before I panic, what I am going to do here is first play the grid, because Vexing, oops, oh no, I don't know how we blasted through a bunch of that, but I first play the grid because Vexing is going to prevent them from being able to counter it, and then you can crack Vexing, and now they can't do anything because grid's in play, and then we get to draw. And my thought was, well, if there's a Burning Wish on top, or really any action, I'd like to be protected, and I'm going to check for it right now. We do check, and it is a Burning Wish, which is nice. However, we're 1 storm shy of killing them. So, tough choice here. You could go for a relay. You could certainly make the argument that a relay is sure to kill them. So it's the same thing as empty, except you don't risk any sort of way of them being able to beat empty. Now, normally you'd say, well, this is game 1. They're not going to have something to beat it. They don't play sweepers in the main deck. It's going to be enough goblins where some more Bowmasters and or Uro, maybe a combination of Uro and a Bowmasters could like get ahead of it. But we do have smashings, we're making tokens. But the one thing that can really mess it up is Tamiyo. Now, I'm willing to take this chance because I'm pretty sure that I can still even deal with Tamiyo if we go for empty. So that is what I do. And the reason I think we can deal with Tamiyo is because we have, 1, we have protection. 2, if we need it, we have more protection. And 3, we have 2 Shatterskull Smashing. So all I gotta do is find a red source, or for this Saga to pop off, and I can use one of the Smashings, and we should be okay. They do play a Tamiyo, and they do flip it immediately. There's also the fact that if they couldn't flip Tamiyo immediately, that would be pretty good for us as well. But they do. So we certainly gotta still get a ball game here. I'm just going to chump this because we're 12. We have Ancient Tombs that we want to use. Potentially even life that we want to pay off the Shatterskull. So we draw Seething Song, which, if I'm being completely honest, I was saying to myself, I really hope I draw Seething Song. So, you know, I phoned in for it and it arrived. But really, we just wanted a red source. Although, yeah, we wanted the +2 mana as well so that we could actually kill this Tamiyo. I did think to myself immediately after I cast that Seething Song, maybe it would have been better to make a construct. Reason being, then next turn, we'd have enough mana, given both of our Ancient Tombs. It would put us to 3, but given both of our Ancient Tombs, we'd be able to 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 6 mana into Shatterskull, which actually deals a total of 12. Not that I would necessarily need 12, but my point is I could kill, if I had one more mana, I could kill Bowmaster and Tamiyo. Actually, that wouldn't be enough because they're going to plus Tamiyo most likely. And then you can't deal 6, it just doubles automatically, so it's either 5 or 12. So that's nice, but I do go for it now. There is the Tamiyo +2 that's in effect, so I still can't attack. And we are, of course, hoping that they don't have another Tamiyo flip, so they cast up the Beanstalk. Again, this is game 1. I'd be less willing to take these lines game 2. They might have more sweepers. We draw a Petal. I'm going to go ahead and make a construct and play out this Petal. And get an LED so that we're more alive off the top. I'm not going to pay another 2 life for this defense grid. It's just not worth it. And I leave back 2 goblins. I want to play around 2 pieces of removal. In retrospect, I may have wanted to keep back 3. Simply because, like, 13 attackers as opposed to 14 is just, considering their life total, I think it's the same. And it can play around more stuff. They were trying to cast something on end step. I think they forgot about grid. So that's good for us. Now they're casting Murktide. It seems like pretty much just so that they can draw some cards, and they don't get there. The game is definitely a bit grindy, and I don't think I played it perfectly, but we got there. And now we're on the draw again. With a similar hand. We have both of our Sagas. In fact, I think our last hand also had both Sagas, Petal, LED, and Gamble. And an Ancient Tomb, maybe? This is almost exactly the same hand. Except it's 7 cards. Ghost Vacuum, really don't care about it. That card sucks. So you just play out a Saga, play out a Petal. It's a joke. It's a good card. But it sucks, right? Get it? So, and I say this all the time. Even, I mean, here, I don't, like, super care if they counter LED. But I'm still going to play out other mana. I would rather them counter Petal as opposed to it, right? So the more mana that you put into play before your Lion's Eye Diamond, the less worth it is for your opponent to counter the Lion's Eye Diamond. So anytime you would rather them counter any mana before it, rather than your LED, you can run it out last, and of course, before your Vexing Bauble. This is especially true when you have a Vexing Bauble and when it is particularly important for your Lion's Eye Diamond to resolve. LED and Vexing. Vexing is in. Once again, we've got some very threatening constructs, as well as just a ton of potential energy for the combo. Now, they brainstorm, and they don't lock it up, but they play a Swamp. So unless they randomly have Dark Ritual in their Bug, Force of Will, Brainstorm, Ponder deck, I'm almost entirely not worried about anything here. So I say, forget these constructs. I'm going ham. We play a song, play a second song, and play a gamble. Go get Echo. We'll spin the wheel. Now we get 6 mana post Echo. It's pretty gnarly. Okay, a hand like this, you're basically saying, I want to resolve Jeska's Will, and I don't want to dip in my blue to do it because I want to frontside this Echo. Most likely. That's the sort of thing I'm doing. We don't 100% know because the line is going to involve cracking at least one Bauble. But of course you want to grid first, and then crack Bauble. That way you're 100% protected all the time. And I think I'm going to use my Saga, because I don't think constructs are important anymore. So I believe I use Saga and a red to cast Defense Grid. Then I cast Jeska as well to get the extra red, so that I can crack my Bauble, still without using the blue. Let's see if I had the same idea. Yep. Play Jeska as well. 7 mana guarantee because of grid. Nice. Now I can crack the Bauble. Seething Song, that's nice. So I cast that. And now I have enough mana such that if you look at this, right? Obviously I gambled, it's on the stack, but if you look at this hand with the gamble, you can frontside the Echo. You could imprint the gamble with Chrome Mox frontside the Echo. It's a fine line. It's very likely to win on the spot, of course. Could play out some number of Vexing and or grid so that your Echo is stronger. However, I think we have a lot of mana, but not too much, especially in the event that you're going for a frontside Echo. This is where gamble, this is an unconventional but reasonably frequent circumstance that you wind up in with gamble, where you have a powerful line, and gamble essentially gives you a very high percentage chance to give you either lethal or what I would call virtually lethal in this circumstance, because we're going to be able to Mind's Desire, 80% chance to do so. So either improve your high velocity line and upgrade it to lethal or virtually lethal, or worst case, very small percentage chance to reduce the initial power level and velocity of your baseline line, right? Whatever you gamble for, when you already have a super strong line, at worst, it hits itself, and you have the same line, except with 1 less mana. This is true when gamble is getting action, right? Because now you're going to have 2 action cards, and even if one gets hit, especially when it's an Echo, you'll be fine. Not so much true when you have 1 action spell plus gamble, and you're gambling for mana. Because now if you hit your action spell, you're in trouble. Unless, of course, it is an Echo. Echo is obviously unique in that if it gets discarded, it simply becomes reduced in cost and less powerful. There's a lot of gamble lines where I'm gambling for Echo and purposefully not going Hellbent because I have so much mana that I would rather frontside it. But anyways, we go for Burning Wish. We hit. We get the bonus Chrome Mox for an extra Storm. And we get to Mind's Desire for 11. And unfortunately, I don't think the opponent even wants to see it. Which is a bummer, I know. But we did it. That concludes round 3. We'll see you in round 4. Alright, we're back with round 4 against FR Greedy. We have lost the die roll. And our hand has a ton of mana. A little less so, considering the fact that Jeska's Will is probably going to be needed for action. So this hand is looking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 mana. Use 3 of it to draw 3, and we have a draw step. So it's going to be like a draw 3 and 6 mana. It's very good. I will keep it. There are definitely better hands, of course, but it's still definitely worth keeping. Alright, they are playing what seems to be a fair... Well, all these decks are like Nadu, so they're not fair anymore, but... not interactive. We're free to do as we please. There maybe like an endurance pops up or something. Okay, so... Because we drew another Rite of Flame, which is real nice, we don't even have to go all the way in here. What I do is I use a Rite of Flame and a Spirit Guide, and then I cast Jeska's Will for action. because I can go 1, back up to 3, Song for 5, and have Lion's Eye Diamond. If this hits, good action. If it doesn't, I don't have to waste all my mana. Endurance could screw that up, but I'm not sure they even want to Endurance here if they had it, which they didn't. And spoiler, they do have Endurance. Alright, so we play out all of our mana. We did hit some action. We hit this Reforge here. Now we have a Reforge with a bunch of extra mana. 3 to be exact, which is a great place to be. They do have Endurance. They do use it just to make future Rite of Flames worse. Okay, and we had this hand plus the Jeska's Will. The Will we use to get more mana. Now, you could right here, right now, Burning Wish for a Reforge. You can imprint with Chromox even, but I'm not thrilled to do it because it's only a wheel plus 1 mana. You do get an Echo in the graveyard, which is nice, but you do have to imprint an Echo, which isn't nice. And I just feel like there's so many live draws. So what I do instead is cycle one of these Vexings. And we hit a 3rd Echo, which is pretty silly. But I'm thinking to myself, because I can see their graveyard now, right? So it's Nadu with Green Sun Zenith, Shepherd. This doesn't feel like the all-in Elves version, because that plays like combo Elves cards instead of Nomads. If they played a Mana Dork, it'd be different, because then we'd have higher chance of getting hit by Natural Order. But there's a really good chance they just can't kill us here. I'm not even exactly sure how they could kill us, so I'm pretty sure we're safe. And they don't really play like sweepers. So I just make goblins, because even if they like dumped out some blockers, it's 26 goblins. So here they are. 26, and they take a draw step and scoop it up. We are game 2, of course on the draw again. And our hand is pretty good, so I keep this, obviously. We have Echo, we have Saga, we have some additional mana, we have a bounce spell. There's some awkwardness, because I'd have to imprint Echo to cast Echoing Truth. They do play turn 1 Deafening Silence. Spoiler, we kill them on turn 2. But I do opt for imprinting, because we did find a red source, which is really nice. Now we can imprint the Echo, and Gamble can get another Echo. And we could just end step bounce this Deafening Silence. We're basically just hoping we don't get hit by like a natural Oof or Teague. And we do not. We play a bird. And we end step bounce the Deafening Silence. On tap, get some more mana, which is nice. And now I'm just going to go ham, right? We're going to use Will as a Seething Song because they have 5 cards. Play LED. Go get Echo. And we'll spin the wheel into very much lethal. So this is actually a pretty interesting hand here. This would be a good situation to pause the video and think of what you would do. Obviously, there's lethal, but there's actually a reasonable amount of thought that should be put into this. We don't know 100% that they aren't Force of Will version. They don't seem to be, but this is also post-board. They could have Trap, a timely Force of Vigor, although you shouldn't get caught by that here regardless. And this is, again, where Mind's Desire is really good, and why it's important to make blue where you can. We can get a ton of mana from Jeska's Will. We don't even have to dip into our double blue. Then we can play out our zeros, and then you have 2 Burning Wish, right? And you can use one and crack your LED, make black, and kill them with Tendrils, but you lose the trap. You lose if they're randomly a force deck. What you can do, however, you can cast this Will, which gets in, play out the Chromoxin, and now I can just cast Burning Wish. There's no reason to cast LED yet. That just gives your opponent the opportunity to cast Force of Vigor and hit it. The whole point of this line is I don't have to use my Lion's Eye Diamond. And if they have something to counter this, then I can play it out, play Burning Wish and kill them. So rather than just playing lethal, we set up virtually lethal into lethal, which is markedly better. So Desire for 10, which is sure to win. If for some wild reason it doesn't, in fact, all it has to do is hit 1 mana and a protection spell for Burning Wish. So it hits a bunch of stuff, and now we can just kill them. They play some stuff out in the Burning Wish for Tendrils, and as it so happens, they had nothing. And they're dead. But an important part of this deck is recognizing when it is free to play around things. If it is free to do so, you may as well play around anything and everything that you can. And even in the event that playing around something, depending on the likelihood of that something, it may be worth reducing your odds even of having success of whatever line you're trying to achieve. The more you can approximate both your own odds as to the lines that you're taking and the odds of your opponent having X, Y, or Z, the better you can make your choices. And equally as important is recognizing when you don't even have to do that math. Like, we didn't have to do that math. It was free to do this. It was free to put a Mind's Desire for 10 in front of lethal. I don't have to think, what if they have this, what if they have that? All I have to think is, I have double lethal, right? Which is the same thing as protection into lethal, or, of course, Desire for 10 is not necessarily lethal, but for argument's sake, pretty much is. Alright, that's round 4. Beat a Deafening Silence. Feels good. Got to Desire again. Feels good. See you in the final round. Okay, final round here against Red Hot Phil. And once again lost the die roll. I think it was 2 die roll wins and then 3 die roll losses. I will keep this hand. It's pretty well rounded. We can do Saga stuff. We've got some mana. We have protection. We've got a Burning Wish. Nothing immediately explosive, but well rounded. Play out the Petal. Saga, get Vexing in. Looks like they're playing Mystic Forge. We're just really hoping they don't have like land, monolith plus stuff. And they do not. They're just making constructs, which is pretty good for us here. That was weird. It took like 15 clicks to get through that one thing. I just don't want it to zip way ahead. Okay, over to our turn. We draw a Spirit Guide, which is not bad. Saga ticks up. Play out City. Pass it over. We still can't really do much here. But they're making another construct, which is really good news for us. We go for Needle on our Saga, which just does not matter. If that's what they're going to get, that's fine. I feel like people just instinctually like use all activations when a Saga pops off in case Needle is gotten. But in the event that them getting Needle is not a good play for them, just don't, right? Guess you could argue it's free to make the construct, but then maybe they get something else that is good. Here I'm just cracking Vexing and killing them. Because this is game 1 against Mystic Forge. They are not going to stop us, and we have a Pier. Just get LED. Start playing out and tapping all of our mana. Cast the Burning Wish. Hold priority. Go get Pier. Cast Pier. And cast a bunch of stuff. We're going to zip through this. It's not really all that important. If you can't kill your opponent from here, then, I don't know. You gotta do some more practice. Alright, they are dead. On to game 2. Obviously, we're on the play. This hand, I mean, it's an okay hand, but it's pretty slow. We're up against, like, having to deal with turn 1 Karn, stuff like that. I'm sorry, not on the play, on the draw, obviously. And this one is similar, except we have a Braid, which could be quite useful. I wind up keeping it. The problem with being on the draw against them is they are playing Vexing Bauble, so if we mulligan to some, like, LED Echo aggro hand, there's a pretty high chance it's just not even going to be good. And really, if they have a turn 1 Karn, nothing's going to matter anyways. And they do. There's a world where we can beat it, but not really, and certainly not with this hand. It's just too slow. And they get us with the lattice. On to game 3 here. Now, obviously, we're on the play. For all the marbles, this hand is another one of those examples where I don't keep this. And I don't want to say all the time, but I see it often enough where people keep these hands across the table. Like, I think it happened to me this morning or last night. My opponent was playing the Epic Storm, and they just kept a hand that just went Lion's Eye Diamond Echo on 7. I mean, even on 6, that's kind of unacceptable. Certainly more so with this deck. In the Epic Storm, this deck, there is no deck that is more capable of putting an Echo on the stack on turn 1 than this deck. So if your 7-card hand, all it can do, like, it doesn't even play around Mindbreak Trap. That's an argument. Post board, you're playing it, you're worried about Mindbreak Trap. You go like land Lines of Diamond Echo of Eons. That's a good play. But this doesn't even play around Mindbreak Trap and just echoes. It's even worse if you make a land drop and do it, right? At least this has a land drop, but I would rather just take an actual mulligan instead of a mulligan that I can only mulligan once. This is the wrong blue card. Otherwise, this hand would be pretty explosive. So we got to throw it back. We go to 5. And we keep this. See, on 5 already, we now have an Echo plus 1 mana. And you might think, well, is it really that much better? Just 1 mana? Absolutely. 1 mana can make a huge difference. It can get to your 3 mana spell. That can get you to 7 mana. It can be the 1 mana and or storm that you need to present lethal. And it's a 5-card hand. On 5, this is where you start taking, you know, even Echo hands that don't have anything additional. But I believe we saw a ley line last game at some point. Like they discarded it or something. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was Painter. I don't know. I forget. Either way, they didn't have it. And off we go. We spin it. And now we have 1, 2, 3. See, now we have 3 mana. Because we have, if we didn't have 1 additional mana here, we'd just be passing. Instead, we can go up to 7 mana, play Birgi, go to 4, play Song, go to 6 with a Birgi in play, and then Reforge with 2 mana and a Birgi post Reforge. That's insane. I'm a fan to go Horn plus Reforge. However, this deck is not as good a Horn deck as the previous iterations were. Previous iterations had a lot more Mox Opals, Grim Monoliths, easier mana. So, like, a Horn plus Wheel, no land drop, no mana floating, might not be better than Birgi plus Wheel. It's very close. It used to be way better. So now that we have Birgi, we can just make so much mana so easily. We can even play out Defense Grid to make sure they can't play anything from their hand, so Jeska's Will's at its best, and we're not getting trapped. So now we will up to 8 mana, and we're going to wheel again. It's all turn 1. Even get to look at their stuff. Bunch of junk. Love to see it. And now, when I talked about the importance of having Reforge in the sideboard, here it is. We only have access to red mana. We don't want to pass the turn. And if the only action without passing the turn I had here was Jeska's Will to look at 3 cards, I'd be pretty disappointed. Instead, we can Reforge again. And it's actually damn good because it puts this Echo in the graveyard as well. Means we're just so likely to kill them right now. This game has certainly escalated, not in their favor. Okay, it skipped ahead a little bit there. Our hand was this, plus 1 of the gambles. Storm is 16. And we have another gamble. So what that means, if gamble's your only piece of action, then you're thinking to yourself, well, do I have double blue? Because then I can play out the things that give me double blue and then gamble for Echo, and then I can always frontside the Echo. Or if you only have single blue, the question, this is the spot where you only have 1 gamble. then you're probably thinking, well, can I go Hellbent, cast all my stuff, and then go get Echo and just flash it back? If you don't have any blue, then you're thinking to yourself, well, am I in Grape Shot territory? I can just gamble for Burning Wish. Obviously, there's a chance to lose that gamble. Or, in some circumstances, you're just gambling for Horn, so that you can essentially get a new hand. But here we have two gambles, and we have so much Storm that we're in Grape Shot territory. Really, the only thought I had was, okay, if it hits a castable, if this gamble hits my best castable, do I still have enough Storm and mana to Grape Shot them? This is, once again, hypothetical in the event that you only have... Or no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the actual circumstance here, where we have two gambles. The failsafe, of course, is that you have a second gamble. So if it hits itself, you reassess with the other gamble. If not, you just got to answer the question, what if it hits my best castable? That being either Petal or Song. Let's say it hits Petal. I can still Song, Storm 17, then I can afford to cast my Grid, Storm 18, and then Burning Wish Grape Shot is 1920. You'd even cast Gamble again. So the answer is, as long as it doesn't hit itself, they're dead, and if it does hit itself, we still have this other gamble, and we can reassess then. I'm not going to make that assessment until then, because it's so unlikely to happen in the first place. I'm not going to waste my brain power on it. And bang bang. It hit the Spirit Guide, so now we play our stuff out, including the other grid, why not? And get him with the grapes. Sweet. Dead. It's even letting me click through them. Satisfaction. Right down to 0. And that is it. It was a super fast league. I played the first match last night. Then, as you can see, from 11:20 to 12, it only took 40 minutes to play the other 4. I'm pretty sure I took some time in between at some point too, like use the bathroom. So, this is my current list. Hope this was helpful for anyone looking to either play Storm in general, play Gamble in general. I mean, the Epic Storm is using Gamble, so a lot of these heuristics cross over. But they're tough to pin down as something that you could, like, record and be specific about. There's a lot of different ways to use Gamble, and the majority of them don't actually include a significant gamble. Right? If you already have LED, going for Echo is not a gamble. If you already have lethal, and despite what happens with the gamble, you still have lethal, that's not actually a gamble. You're just giving yourself whatever percentage chance to beat something that they could have. And then, of course, there's the gambles that you already have a powerful line, but you're giving yourself whatever percentage chance to have lethal instead. Most common when you're already protected. In fact, the lines where you truly are gambling are usually either pretty high chance go get your Lion's Eye Diamond lines, or a lot of the times it's a spot where any other card wouldn't be giving you the out in the first place. So it'd be like any other card, you would have been dead in the water, but now Gamble is giving you, you know, a 1/3 chance to actually just win. So those never feel bad to me when I lose them, because I feel like I'm not in the game, but Gamble's giving me a chance to just kind of spike it. I think one of the most important parts about this deck is mitigating Fizzle. You know, when you have 1,000,000 mana and frontside Echo is available, and you're just autopiloting to flashback Echo of Eons, and then you don't hit any action, like, that's on you. When you just spend your whole hand and then gamble for Echo and flashback Echo, when you already had 15 mana, or even when you already had 8 mana or whatever, like, sure, play out that Lion's Eye Diamond. It's a lot of mana in one card. But, or whatever, there's certain situations where you play a couple things, but frontside Echo is a very good way of preventing Fizzle. Or sometimes I'll have a Reforge and a Burning Wish, and instead of, like, getting the max mana by Burning Wishing for Jeska's Will, and then Reforging, depending on how much mana you already have, sometimes it's ideal to Burning Wish to get the Echo, and then cast the Reforge, and now you're drawing into virtually 8 cards because you have the Echo available, one of which is guaranteed a Time Twister. What's better, draw 7 or draw 8? Or draw 7 plus a Time Twister, I mean. I am really liking having the extra red source and the extra Ancient Tomb over the 2 Sagas. I do want Saga. I think 2 Sagas is a great number to have, and it's a great reason to be off of the 1 of action artifact and being off of the sideboard pieces for Saga. It's always nice having more red sources, and having another soul land will support casting Seething Song a lot better. And I do not miss Opal. That's all I got. Let me know in the comments a couple things. 1, if you do prefer the large preview pane. And 2, if you prefer the gameplay or the replay, or if it's just a matter of what deck I'm playing. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See y'all for the next one. Keep on storming. Peace out.